Now, in the next gallery, we meet Napoleon's army as the Emperor builds an empire. Meet a brigadier general in the light cavalry, particularly elaborate, styled à la Hongroise in the Hungarian fashion, the stars of rank worn on the sleeves of the jacket. Meet a carabinier, the elite of the cavalry, specially trained to charge the enemy and guarantee the victory. Meet Napoleon's foot soldier, in infantryman's uniform with the eagle standard, carrying his long rifle with the bayonet attached, with his knapsack and rolled overcoat on his back. He was a pillar of the great army, walking from the Spanish Sierras to the Russian steppes. Meet them all here, as we see Napoleon visiting the bivouacs on the eve of the Battle of Austerlitz in 1805, where the French army will confront the Austrian-Russian coalition. The fires, you see, were in tribute to the Emperor. The enemy thought the French were burning their camp and preparing to retreat. Thus, they spread their lives thin the next day to cover that retreat. Napoleon was able to break through and crush them. Meet them all here, as Napoleon dozes at his bivouac on the battlefield of Wagram in 1809, where Austria was finally reduced to a second-rate power, and the Emperor Francis would make the political choice to give his daughter Marie-Louise to the Emperor Napoleon in marriage. This painting, the crossing of the Avis Pass, is significant as one of the very few in France to show French defeat. A propaganda piece painted by someone who was actually there, the artist Louis-François Lejeune, here in the center. It depicts a vicious, no-quarter-given attack by evil-looking Spaniards on noble-looking Frenchmen in 1811 in protest of Napoleon naming his brother Joseph the King of Spain. Nevertheless, by this time, Napoleon had made his family the royalty of Europe, a tight federation of kingdoms all under the rule of the emperor. His only continental rival was Russia, and Russia was where he would turn his attention. In June of 1812, he took an army of 600,000, crossed the Niemen River into Russia, and was victorious in battle after battle that summer, including this, the Battle of Polotsk in August, all the way to Moscow. In Moscow, fortunes turned against the French. A vicious Russian winter, the burning of Moscow around him by the Russians, would all but destroy Napoleon's forces. By the end of 1812, in the midst of that Russian winter, only 60,000 of that original 600,000 would stumble out of Russia, and Napoleon would see an army under his personal command defeated for the first time in his career, but not the last. At the Battle of Leipzig in 1813, a new coalition of Prussians, Russians, English, and again Austrians would defeat the emperor again, and he would lose all possessions beyond the Rhine. The end of an empire was now in sight. The next gallery, we see the carriage Napoleon ordered for the Russian campaign. Like all of his carriages, equipped with files and a writing desk. And this new model could be tightly closed against inclement weather, or opened wide for seeing and being seen by his men. This carriage, and like over 500,000 of those men, would return from the Russian campaign, only to be captured at Waterloo. It was presented to Marshal Blucher, the Prussian commander, against Napoleon with Wellington, and remained in his family until 1973, when it was returned to Malmaison. It is the only carriage remaining that still has the original decoration of the Empire coat of arms, just there on the door. Resplendent even in battle, this is the steel, gold, leather, and horsehair helmet of the Emperor, and his steel, gold and velvet breastplate below. Believing it prudent to have his commanding officers in breastplates, Napoleon set the example by having this one made for him, and one just like it for his chief of state in 1807. He wore it just once, found it uncomfortable, and abandoned the idea. This is the staff of the most powerful men in the empire, just below Napoleon. The commander's staff of the marshals of France, issued when the first marshals were named in 1804. This staff is a replica ordered by Field Marshal Davout in 1813, after losing his original staff in Russia in 1812. This is the simple grey redingote, the greatcoat of Napoleon. He had 6 just like it, varying only in colour, green, blue, or the most famous, grey. Here is his campaign tent. This one delivered in 1808 for the Spanish campaign. The Emperor's tent would be divided into 2 spaces. Here, the working area, with its practical and handsome folding chairs and tables, able to be hooked together so that maps might be spread out and battles planned, such as this map of Germany from the 1813 campaign. The second area is here, the bedroom, with Napoleon's famous and ingenious folding and rolling iron and copper bed. The ground would be covered with a wool rug in a leopard skin pattern. Here are a brace of Napoleon's pistols, worn at the Battle of Friedland in 1807, and above them, the most historically significant of all of the Emperor's remaining rifles. Dated on the stock, July 15th, 8 p.m., 1815. This is the rifle Napoleon gave to Navy Lieutenant Jean-Victor Besson in gratitude for Besson's plan for the Emperor's escape to the United States. Deciding instead to surrender to the British, Napoleon presented the rifle, saying, "I have nothing left in this world to give you, my friend, other than this rifle. Please take it to remember me by." From that melancholy moment at the end of his career, alone and defeated, we move back into time and into the next gallery to find the loves of his life and the splendor of life in his court. Any such study must begin here, with his incomparable Josephine. She stood but 5 feet tall, but commanded the attention of everyone in a room, of everyone in an empire. She was so attractive, so charming and enchanting, she would sweep a dashing young general 6 years her junior off his feet. The most powerful man in the world would worship her, crown her empress himself, write to her from every corner of the world, even in the midst of battle, several times a day on many occasions. And he would break her heart and his own. This mahogany piece with its wonderful gilt bronze work is Josephine's secretary and letter file from her boudoir at Malmaison. Her personal papers, the Emperor's letters, never far away. Here is one of her magnificent court dresses and trains. This one is only 53 inches tall for the petite empress, but the train stretches behind her for 10 feet. In 1809, an inventory of her wardrobe listed 49 court ensembles and 676 dresses. In 1 year, she ordered 136 outfits, 87 hats, 985 pairs of gloves, and 520 pairs of shoes. Josephine was indeed able to bear children, two in fact, by her first marriage to Alexandre de Beauharnais, her daughter, Hortense, to be married to Napoleon's brother Louis in 1802, and to become Queen of Holland and the mother of Napoleon III. Josephine's son, Eugene, to become Viceroy of Italy, to marry a princess of Bavaria and sire a line of European royalty that reigns today, shown here in his Legion of Honor. Unfortunately, she could bear no children with Napoleon, no heirs for the emperor, and he would divorce her in 1809 and find a new empress. But his first son, Count Alexander Walewski, born in 1810, never his successor as emperor, was the son of neither empress. He was the son of Napoleon and this young woman, Countess Marie Walewska. They met and fell in love in Warsaw in 1807. Their relationship would last until his exile on St. Helena. He would find his new empress in a politically driven alliance with the 18-year-old Grand Duchess Marie-Louise, daughter of the Emperor of Austria. And their wedding would take place in a civil ceremony at Saint-Cloud on April 1st, 1810. The next day, the official wedding would be held at the Louvre, and Georges Rouget would capture it on canvas in the style of his master, David. In this official portrait of the new empress, painted in 1812 by Robert Lefebvre, Marie-Louise is shown touching her crown, standing in front of her throne, and wearing a sumptuous necklace of diamonds. Here is that actual necklace, a gift of Napoleon to his bride to celebrate the birth of their son. Within 2 months of their marriage, Marie-Louise was pregnant, and the emperor was ecstatic. Amid great fanfare, the heir arrived in March of 1811 and was given the title of the King of Rome, shown here with his mother in a miniature of Jean-Baptiste Isabey. And here with his mother and father on a walk in the Tuileries Gardens in a miniature attributed to David. As we look at the toys of Napoleon II, the King of Rome, a vermeil and coral rattle, a boxwood, ebony and ivory mallet, his drum, we can reflect on his sad story. Born to glory, his father's fortunes would begin to fall soon after his birth. His mother would take him to Austria after Napoleon's exile to Elba, where the once King of Rome would become the Duke of Reichstadt, a title from his mother's family. And there he would die at the age of only 21 of consumption. Before the glory of the empire faded, it burned bright indeed. Here in bright velvet, satin, gold and silver, in one of 3 red dress coats owned by the emperor, this being the second, delivered in 1806. Here in bright gilt bronze in a statuette of Napoleon consulting a map, a copy of a Moutonnee original done by Charles Stanislas Candlers before his death in 1812, the only version in gilt bronze known to exist.